Okay, so I don't have any major updates for you guys, but I did kind of want to talk about myself. Just do like a little introductory video, because I've seen a lot of like my book talk and bookstagram besties doing this kind of stuff, like a little introductory video. I just don't think I'm a very entertaining person, so it's very hard to introduce myself in a way that I feel is like palatable to an audience. And the only comfort I'm getting here is knowing that I am an author, so a lot of my audience is going to be readers or other authors who likely live in a very similar manner to me. Starting off, I just want to talk about myself a little bit in the terms of my art, because both writing and my paintings, I try to take a very similar approach, which is taking the baseline of like the human condition, our experiences and emotions that we share, throughout every human. All of us share the same baseline emotional reactions, right? One thing that we see a lot in our society is that there are no original experiences. I like to say there's no original experiences, but there are original executions. And I would say I take the same approach in my painted art. A good example is the one I have hanging up here, which is the Embers of Satan. Now, with my 7 Deadly series, I've been offered a little bit of criticism on the fact that people think I'm a little too, flagrant with the demonic side of it and the sin aspect of it, and that I am removing the evil from the sin, and I don't necessarily think that's true. Now, I grew up in a relatively open-minded and open religion family. There was no real rules about what I could or could not believe, just the encouragement that I have a belief system. A lot of people in my family follow different paths, both religious and spiritually, and we've had a lot of in-laws come in with their own different beliefs, and it's something that I'm lucky I grew up with, like my dad's family, who are all just very open and accepting of different walks of life, because I have been able to carry that with me as well. And one thing that I've noticed that is the same across the board when you are interacting with people is the emotions. Yes, our cultures might be different. The way we speak to each other might, change based on location, but we all feel, and we are all human. The Embers of Satan, one of the focuses on that, which was of course wrath, which is, according to the research I did, according to the Binsfield classification, because there's different ones, but the Binsfield classification has Satan as the demonic prince for wrath. So Embers of Satan is supposed to show what happens when you cannot express anger and express too much anger. Because that was the focus with 7 Deadly. A lot of the criticism I got was that I removed sin from the title. One, I didn't grow up religious like that, so the idea of sin and redemption don't mean the same to me that they mean to you. And for these pieces, I really wanted to hone in on that. And, for wrath, whenever you think about someone who has too much anger, you think of someone burning themselves down to nothing but an ember. But what do you think about when you think of someone who cannot express any anger, even if it's to their detriment? Someone who cannot stand up for themselves, someone who allows themselves to be beaten down and just stifles themselves. They snuff out their own flame before they're able to catch a light. They themselves are stuck as an ember, which I feel, going with the ashy, slightly burning core that I did for the Embers of Satan, it kind of depicts both sides of that. And depending on who you are, I feel like you can look at it and you can relate to it, because I am pulling more towards the emotion of anger, and there is no real set forth topic of it that is going to make you go, oh, it is too much or too little anger. It is your own personal experience that's going to make you drive that final nail in the coffin. I would say the biggest religious symbolism I have on this one is the crown of thorns, which I used for just the general idea of pain, sacrifice, and suffering. Because a lot of times whenever it comes to anger, that's what's at its core, pain. A lot of people, don't like the phrase, but anger to me does feel more of a secondary emotion, because whenever you step back from it, what made you angry? Feeling disrespected, feeling unheard, feeling like you didn't matter. Your anger is a response to what you felt, not necessarily the response to what was done. You are upset that someone has done this to you. They did not necessarily spark your anger. They've done something that's made you feel a way, and that sparked your anger at them. Not to say that it's not valid or it doesn't exist or it's not actually real, but just that there is a lot more to anger than just unbridled rage. If I had to describe my style, abstract and surrealism, I guess, I don't feel like I actually stay to anything too specific. I feel like I do allow myself to kind of venture out and You know, I try not to keep myself like too in a box because I don't like the idea of ever limiting myself and trying to go, oh, well, I can't create that because I don't do that. Not necessarily the idea of the rejection of the label itself. Just I feel like if I start trying to push myself into a box, I'm just going to stifle my creativity. So I might as well just do whatever feels right in the moment. I have a few other in the 7 Deadly series. One that is finished and framed, but it's out of the shot, which is the Tendrils of Leviathan. And then I'm working on the Beelzebub's Table and Petals of Asmodee right now. And those ones I've been posting about a little bit on my other social media. You'll be able to see like little reels and clips. I'm going to try to pull some of them over to shorts as well. I try to do a similar thing in my writing as well. Now, obviously, I don't have the same tools to give you the visual aspect of it. But whenever it comes to writing, one of the things that has been the most complimented is the way that I have depicted emotions, especially stronger, overwhelming ones, throughout Burning the Monasteries, which is something that I've been very thankful for. I was a little worried that it was going to make it come off like Namraya was just whiny or like a baby, couldn't deal with it. So I am happy to see that readers are more so resonating with the idea of like the overwhelming anxiety and stuff and the more like descriptive use of language to describe the feeling outside of just panic. That's really my only work up so far. So I don't have a lot of really anything else to offer you on that end to talk about anything different, but it's something I like to encompass in my writing, and hopefully I'll have a few more books out that you guys will be able to see that more in. I love to garden. You guys will catch me outside all the time. I love hummingbirds. I have so many bird feeders in the yard. I have so many flowers and so many wind chimes. And once the weather is warm, like you just cannot get me inside. And if it weren't for all the other things you have to deal with whenever you move to areas that are like consistently warm year round, I would already have been in one because I can't do winter. Also, the seasonal depression. Ugh. I read a lot. I read in a lot of different genres. I want to talk about some of the books that I enjoy, some of the ones I'm reading now, some of the ones I've finished. I just don't really know where to start with it all. I have a lot of different taste in books. Primarily, I lean towards like horror and like fantasy. And those seem to be like my little like soft spots. Now, I did order a blind date with a book advent calendar. It came with 12 wrap books. They all come with like a little pen, a drink mix, and some stickers and a bookmark. Because I want to get myself out of just the same 2 genres. Because, I mean, you guys can see this shelf. I don't think you can see much of that one, if it's even in the shot right now. There's a lot of, like, thriller and horror, and there's a lot of fantasy. And, of course, my own books up there. You guys don't count. Fantasy. I would call this a paranormal romance, I feel. Not this one specifically, but the Vampire Academy is over there behind that one. That's the only book I have out of that series. I don't know why. I don't know how I came in possession of that one specifically. I don't have any of the others. But I have the whole Vampire Academy series, and I'd call that one more of like a paranormal romance. Because it's very based in reality. It's just vampires. Vampire Academy. Duh. So I ordered the advent calendar. I've been going through them. I've been opening one a month over on the other socials. And honestly, it's been fun. I've gotten a few more books, especially stuff that I wouldn't have necessarily looked for or picked up myself. And it's been interesting going through and reading them. Some of them I've really enjoyed. Some of them, not so much. But I think that's kind of the risk you take whenever you do an advent calendar. I have been able to get a little bit out of my typical genres, though. And I have been enjoying that because it's nice just to kind of explore and see other things that I may like out in the world. Especially because once I started like kind of just reading in horror and fantasy, I didn't really continue expanding out. And I found some pretty interesting stuff that I've enjoyed. I'm not a huge fan of new age romance, but I do enjoy a contemporary romance here and there.